hello again. I'm very glad that you're back today. Sasha's a little sleepy, but I know that we're both excited to see you, and we're glad that you are here to decorate, sing, and continue our story. But first, why don't we find out what is in our Advent calendar for today, December 10th? Oh, it's this lovely six-pointed star. It's made of stained glass, and I don't know if you can see how the light shines through it. Well, where should we put it on our tree? That looks nice. Well, this star reminds me of the Star of David, which is also a six-pointed star, but it's a little different shape, like this. In Israel, the Star of David is on the flag, and it's also a symbol of the Jewish religion. Israelis, as well as Jewish people around the world, celebrate Hanukkah late in the year, usually during the Christmas season, but it's not the same holiday as Christmas. Hanukkah, or the Festival of Lights, is a remembrance of a miracle that happened when the Maccabees had won a victory over their enemies to take back their temple. That's a religious place of worship. They needed a special oil to light their menorah, but there was very little left, only enough for one day. But miraculously, the oil lasted 8 days, which is just long enough for the time it took them to prepare more oil. And that is why Hanukkah is celebrated for 8 days and nights. And this year, Hanukkah starts today. Each night, you light one new candle on the Chanukah, which has a candle for each of the 8 nights, plus one in the middle that is used to light the other candles. Some special Hanukkah foods include latkes and sufganiyot, which are a kind of jelly donut. After dinner, people often play a game, dreidel, which you spin, and you can even win geld, or chocolate, that looks like gold coins. We heard more about chocolate money on December 4th, too. Well, if you want to wish someone a happy Hanukkah in Hebrew, you can say, Chanukah Sameach. Chanukah Sameach. Do you want to try that with me? Cha, we've got that sound again, kind of in the back of our throats. Chanukah, Chanukah, Sameach, Sameach. Chanukah Sameach. Chanukah Sameach. Very nice. Well, today we are going to review 2 of the songs we've already learned. We'll start with Deck the Halls, and then we'll sing The Holly and the Ivy. And we'll sing each of those one time, okay? Are you ready? Deck the halls up here. Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. Very nice. And now how about the holly and the ivy? The holly and the ivy, when they are both full grown, of all the trees that are in the wood, the holly bears the crown. Oh, the rising of the sun, and the running of the deer, the playing of the merry organ, sweet singing in the choir. Nice job, and thank you again for working on those songs with me. And now, it's time for our story of the day. And today, we're continuing Chapter 13 from Frances Hodgson Burnett's book, A Little Princess. And I'd really recommend going back and watching yesterday's video if you missed it, because I gave an explanation of what's happened in the story so far, and then I think the chapter is just really beautiful. So I would recommend watching it. But just to recap, Sarah is very poorly treated. She's now a servant at the boarding school where she used to be a student. She's been sent out on yet another errand today. She's very cold, very hungry, and she has just found a small piece of money in the streets, enough to buy her a couple of hot buns to eat. And just as she's going to enter a baker's shop, she noticed that a little girl was sitting in the doorstep, and the little girl was worse off than she was. She was wearing rags and didn't have any shoes and just looked very hungry. And this chapter is called One of the Populace, and that's because people had nicknamed Sarah a princess because she used to have a lot of money and nice things. But she decided to continue acting like a princess even after her circumstances had changed. And the populace is how she refers to the subjects of a princess or of a realm. And so she sees this little girl, and we'll just pick up from where we left off yesterday. Above the rags appeared a shocked head of tangled hair and a dirty face with big, hollow, hungry eyes. Sarah knew they were hungry eyes the moment she saw them, and she felt a sudden sympathy. This, she said to herself with a little sigh, is one of the populace, and she is hungrier than I am. This child, this one of the populace, stared up at Sarah and shuffled herself a little aside so as to give her room to pass. She was used to being made to give room to everybody. She knew that if a policeman chanced to see her, he would tell her to move on. Sarah clutched her little 4-penny piece and hesitated a few seconds. Then she spoke to her. "Are you hungry?" she asked. The child shuffled herself in her rags a little more. "I know, just," she said in a hoarse voice. "Just I know." "Haven't you had any dinner?" said Sarah. "No dinner," more hoarsely still and with more shuffling. "Nor yet no breakfast, nor yet no supper, no nothing." "Since when?" asked Sarah. "Dunno. Never got nothing today, nowhere. I've axed and axed." Just to look at her made Sarah more hungry and faint. But those queer little thoughts were at work in her brain, and she was talking to herself, though she was sick at heart. "If I'm a princess," she was saying, "if I'm a princess, when they were poor and driven from their thrones, they always shared with the populace. If they met one poorer and hungrier than themselves, they always shared. Buns are a penny each. If it had been a 6pence, I could have eaten 6. It won't be enough for either of us, but it will be better than nothing." "Wait a minute," she said to the beggar child. She went into the shop. It was warm and smelled deliciously. The woman was just going to put some more hot buns into the window. "If you please," said Sarah, "have you lost a 4pence? A silver 4pence?" And she held the forlorn little piece of money out to her. The woman looked at it, and then at her intense little face and draggled, once fine, clothes. "Bless us, no," she answered. "Did you find it?" "Yes," said Sarah, "in the gutter." "Keep it then," said the woman. "It may have been there for a week, and goodness knows who lost it. You could never find out." "I know that," said Sarah, "but I thought I would ask you." "Not many would," said the woman, looking puzzled and interested and good-natured all at once. "Do you want to buy something?" she added as she saw Sarah glance at the buns. 4 buns, if you please," said Sarah. "Those at a penny each." The woman went to the window and put some in a paper bag. Sarah noticed that she put in 6. "I said 4, if you please," she explained. "I only have 4pence." "I'll throw in 2 for make weight," said the woman with her good-natured look. "I dare say you can eat them sometime. Aren't you hungry?" A mist rose before Sarah's eyes. "Yes," she answered. "I am very hungry, and I am much obliged to you for your kindness, and—" She was going to add, "There is a child outside who is hungrier than I am." But just at that moment, 2 or 3 customers came in at once, and each one seemed in a hurry, so she could only thank the woman again and go out. The beggar girl was still huddled up in the corner of the step. She looked frightful in her wet and dirty rags. She was staring straight before her with a stupid look of suffering, and Sarah saw her suddenly draw the back of her roughened hand across her eyes to rub away the tears which seemed to have surprised her by forcing their way from under the lids. She was muttering to herself. Sarah opened the paper bag and took out one of the hot buns, which had already warmed her own cold hands a little. "See," she said, putting the bun in the ragged lap. "This is nice and hot. Eat it, and you will not feel so hungry." The child started and stared up at her as if such sudden, amazing good luck almost frightened her. Then she snatched up the bun and began to cram it into her mouth with great wolfish bites. "Oh my! Oh my!" Sarah heard her say hoarsely in wild delight. "Oh my!" Sarah took out 3 more buns and put them down. The sound in the hoarse, ravenous voice was awful. "She is hungrier than I am," she said to herself. "She's starving." But her hand trembled when she put down the 4th bun. "I'm not starving," she said, and she put down the 5th. The little ravening London savage was still snatching and devouring when she turned away. She was too ravenous to give thanks, even if she had ever been taught politeness, which she had not. She was only a poor little wild animal. "Goodbye," said Sarah. When she reached the other side of the street, she looked back. The child had a bun in each hand and had stopped in the middle of a bite to watch her. Sarah gave a little nod, and the child, after another stare, a curious, lingering stare, jerked her shaggy head in response, and until Sarah was out of sight, she did not take another bite, or even finish the one she had begun. At that moment, the baker woman looked out of her shop window. "Well, I never!" she exclaimed. "If that young'un hasn't given her buns to a beggar child! It wasn't because she didn't want them either. Well, she looked hungry enough. I'd give something to know what she did it for." She stood behind her window for a few moments and pondered. Then her curiosity got the better of her. She went to the door and spoke to the beggar child. "Who gave you those buns?" she asked. The child nodded her head towards Sarah's vanishing figure. "What did she say?" inquired the woman. "Asked me if I was hungry," replied the hoarse voice. "And what did you say?" "Said I was, Jess." "And then she came in and got the buns and gave them to you, did she?" The child nodded. "How many?" "5." The woman thought it over. "Left just one for herself," she said in a low voice, "and she could have eaten the whole 6. I saw it in her eyes." She looked after the little draggled faraway figure and felt more disturbed in her usually comfortable mind than she had felt for many a day. "I wish she hadn't gone so quick," she said. "I'm blessed if she shouldn't have had a dozen." Then she turned to the child. "Are you hungry yet?" she said. "I'm always hungry," was the answer, "but 'tain't as bad as it was." "Come in here," said the woman, and she held open the shop door. The child got up and shuffled in. To be invited into a warm place full of bread seemed an incredible thing. She did not know what was going to happen. She did not care even. "Get yourself warm," said the woman, pointing to a fire in the tiny back room. "And look here, when you are hard up for a bit of bread, you can come in here and ask for it. I'm blessed if I won't give it to you for that young one's sake." Sarah found some comfort in her remaining bun, At all events, it was very hot, and it was better than nothing. As she walked along, she broke off small pieces and ate them slowly to make them last longer. "Suppose it was a magic bun," she said, "and a bite was as much as a whole dinner. I should be overeating myself if I went on like this." And that concludes the portion of chapter 13 from A Little Princess for today. I thought we could end our time together today with a song and with this candle in honor of Hanukkah. The song is not a Hanukkah song, and this is not a Chanukah, but I still thought it was nice to participate in some way. And our song today is called "Lo, How a Rose Ere Blooming." And if you know it, why don't you sing with me? Lo, how a rose ere blooming from tender stem has sprung, of Jesse's lineage coming, as men of old have sung. It came a floweret bright amid the cold of winter, when half spent was the night. Thank you again for joining us today. I hope I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.